But speaking of legendary, I think we might have legendary ready to go.
We do.
Here we go.
The former king of our radio show. I can't stress this enough. Before he ever became nationally known, the voice of college football on ESPN, with all due respect to the other voices out there, before he's doing play-by-play, he was the king of the drive because nobody brought Cowboys talk to us better than Matt Barrie.
Man, it's like I'm going back to my roots. This is the homecoming I didn't know I needed for the last decade until this moment right here.
Man, how are you, you sexy beast?
Yeah, look, I'm just trying to keep up with you guys. I just got off the Sports Center television set, which is why I'm overdressed for your program.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have it any other way. And, I'm going to try and soak up the last, 3 weeks of summer. Play a lot of golf, do little amount of work as possible, go through all the motions, and then gear up for week 1 coming in a month.
Matt, all it took for you to return to our show, which literally is day 5, back in business, you just had to become a Big 12 brother.
That's it. That's in fact, when I got he was slipping into my DMs, by the way. Ketchum was like slipping into my DMs during Sports Center. And when he said you two were back together, I was like, what time and date? Let's go. Leave it to the college football chaos to bring us all back together into, honestly, gentlemen, with all the garbage going on right now, when you just look regionally, the new Big 12 in season 24 is going to look a lot better than some of the other ones that are combining and about ready to work out.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, Matt. I said it earlier. It may not be SEC or Big Ten, but I think it's really interesting. I thought it was interesting where they were, but adding those 4 teams, I really dig the idea. And I want you to talk about your school and Texas Tech, because I've always dreamed of those getting together. You guys are known for partying a little. They're kind of known for having some cool West Texas partying. Give me a thought on, we know about Arizona and you're bringing Utah and Colorado, but what about an idea of like that? Hanging, party in Lubbock, party in Sun Devil country. Talk to me about it.
Yeah, West Texas and Tempe, we can make that a thing. Like we could get really weird and do like Big 12 after dark and make it a thing. We had the historic game when Patrick Mahomes was the quarterback. It was Arizona State versus Texas Tech in the desert, and that thing went back and forth. I think that was the game that Kalen Ballage. Isn't that when he scored 8 touchdowns and set an NCAA record? So we've seen that thing get exciting before. But I'm with you, Chad. Like, let's find some of these new matchups and these fun matchups and some of these things we haven't seen in a while and make it a living, breathing football party and lean into what it's going to be. Because those 4 corner states, it's all regionally good. I mean, we've seen Oklahoma State and Arizona State play last year. They're going to play again this year. So we've seen some of those, and I like how those match up. But I'm with you. That's a great one to start at. Texas Tech, Arizona State, a couple of schools that kind of have the same thing. They've had some isolated success throughout the years. And let's find some new matchups and rivalries and make this fun.
Yeah. Personally, Matt, any sadness at all that the Pac-12's going the way of the dodo bird?
Yeah, I hate it. I mean, candidly, I hate it because I grew up in Arizona, grew up in Scottsdale, and went to Arizona State. And growing up, that's all I knew. I mean, some form of the Pacific Coast Conference has been around since 1915. And so there's nothing I hated more growing up than that damn USC fight song. And those arrogant, and they do that for an hour. And I hated that. And you were born to hate that. And so a lot of these rivalries, and a lot of this tradition that came out of that conference, and I know people laugh at this, but the academics that came out of that conference and the way that it was just regionally up that Pacific coast, I'm really sad. But I'm also really happy that Arizona State got out ahead of it as quick as they could once Oregon and Washington defected and got in charge of a conference. And gentlemen, think about this for a minute. How many years ago was it where we declared the Pac-12 dead or the Big 12 dead? We declared once Oklahoma and Texas were out, whoa, what's going to happen? And not only has Yormark come in and said, you know what, I'm going to see things forward a little bit. I'm going to figure out how to keep this thing alive and invite some new schools in. And now with where realignment is now, I think the league is going to be special, I just hate that it came at the cost of the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, Matt, it's interesting you say that too, because I grow up with all the different regional, stuff going on. For you, is there anything dumber than the idea that Stanford and Cal would play in the ACC? Just, we've lived through a lot of dumbness. We've talked Cowboys with you because you covered Cowboys for years. Cowboys used to, in NFC East doesn't feel quite right geographically. Right. And I'm a Braves guy, so Braves in the old NL West was dumb. But the idea that Stanford or Cal would throw an ACC logo on their jerseys and go 3,000 miles for a conference game, that's insane.
The Atlantic Coast Conference.
Right. Atlantic. It's in the name. It's in the name.
On the Pacific Coast. From the Pacific Coast.
Come on.
We had this story on SportsCenter today about how there's some talks going on between the two. And if you really want to see how laughable some things can be now, I know if you're on Twitter /X or one of these social media platforms and you see the map that people have created of the new Big Ten, even looking at the absurdity of Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA on the map, and then everybody else in this cluster way over here. And at this point, we've already torn down what makes the sport great. What is that? Regionality and rivalries. Now, some UCLA and USC will still be able to play, and Washington and Oregon, they'll still be able to play like they're 3 games against each other. But it's just absolutely absurd that we're going to get to the point now where everybody is playing schools that aren't even European type travel, 5-6 hours. It's insane that this is where we are. And if those two drop down, I mean, if you look at the Big 12 map, if we're talking about things that don't make sense, and I don't want this to sound the way that it does, but when you look at the new map, UCF, I mean, that looks weird in the Big 12. West Virginia and Cincinnati now look weird in the Big 12. So I guess we've thrown this all out.
Yeah.
Was there ever any concern that in this game of musical chairs, that as an Arizona State guy, from my perspective, I've always felt like, well, they'll be good, they'll be safe. But I would have never have thought Stanford and Cal would be on the outside looking in and trying to figure out what they do. In the last few years, just as an Arizona State guy, have you ever worried with, like, am I going to have to subscribe to Apple Plus? Like, how am I going to get my football? What's it been like as a West Coast fan who cares about football, watching the league kind of dissolve slowly but surely because there's not enough caring?
Well, I have the great fortune to be watching Pac-12 After Dark when I'm doing my 16-hour Saturdays in studio because I know that we can't start taping college football final until we do the Pac-12 After Dark halftime, which is typically around 12:30, 1 a.m., right? So I have a love-hate with the Pac-12 at the moment because of how late it keeps us there. But to answer your question, I think when you look at the big picture where the TV rights and the TV money was going, if you look way back when, I wish I had a year on this, maybe 2011, when there was the rumor of Oklahoma and Texas Tech going to the Pac-12. Remember this way back when we first started talking about these super conferences, and we kind of all laughed at the idea that this would actually be a thing. And so fast forward to now, if I'm a Pac-12 alum that's not fortunate enough to work in the industry, but let's just call it a Pac-12 fan. And I'm sitting there and I was like, well, wait, I already subscribed to this, and this. Now I got to figure out how to subscribe to Apple to stream my sports. And this might be the way of the world in 5 years. But right now I could see why it wasn't appealing to the Oregons and the Washingtons, knowing what kind of money's out there. And I think the biggest problem, I get it. I work at ESPN. I get that ESPN and a lot of these other big networks are in on these negotiations. But I just hate that dollars have come between what has made this sport so special. And I hate that dollars. And by the way, I've said it a million. I hope Oregon State plays for the Pac-12 championship this year. Like, they're just getting left out in the cold. Stanford, one of the best academic institutions in the country. By the way, they dominated Olympic sports. Cal, Berkeley, you're telling me these traditional institutions can't find a home, and now they may have to go play on Tobacco Road for sports? And that's just, I mean, that's where it is. And it is as exciting as it could be. It's frustrating.
By the way, if you're just jumping in here, yes, that is Matt Barrie. You do not need to adjust your computer. Our hair game, our tie game. The man's got Emmys in the background. Our background game up. Everything is going up, and everybody's jacked to see you, Matt.
Let's go.
Matt Barrie on Twitter. If you are not following, he's getting ready for college football. So, Matt, let me let you be selfish here as an Arizona State fan, because I'll say selfishly, as an Aggie, I'm so happy that the House Divided is back. We're calling this show House Divided. I'm so pumped about that. But I'm with you on the regionality and tradition kind of getting ripped away. So for you, though, as a Sun Devil, like if it had to be one game, is it Arizona? And so you're glad they're coming with you? Or is there another game that is your game that you're losing with this whole thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like Texas A&M, and the fact that you always wanted that game to happen. And when A&M left for the SEC, there was so much bad blood that they weren't going to have that happening again. So I think while Texas A&M got there first, there's going to still be some of that pettiness between the two. Like, well, we were here first. You came and followed us. Nonetheless, they're going to play again. It's great for college football. Yeah. For me, that'll always be Arizona just because we don't like Arizona. It's a rivalry thing.
Yeah. So at least you get that. At least you get that.
We get that. But for me, losing the annual game with USC. Okay. Because USC, the Pac-12, even going back to the Pac-10, it was always a USC league, no matter what. And people at Washington, Oregon, certainly at Arizona State, they hate hearing that, but it's the truth. It was a USC league. Everybody was chasing Carson Palmer and Mark Sanchez and Matt Leinart and everybody. It was always USC. And the fact that that's the Coliseum, that was one of my favorite road trips when I was at Arizona State. We would love making the roadie out to the Coliseum. One, because we knew it wouldn't be sold out. We could sit anywhere. And two, it was just a great place to go watch a college football game. And so losing that and that fight song and just the annoyance and the arrogance of USC fans, which is what makes them great, that to me, I'm going to miss that one. That one hurt more than any of them.
Yeah. Matt, I'm just curious. Somebody in the chat said, Matt Barrie, my favorite behind Kirk. Well, how often does that happen?
Why are we ranking? There's no need.
Because it's college sports, we rank everything.
Everything has to be a list?
Right, yeah, everything. Best tailgating spot, best college town, best restaurant, best this. Yeah, look, it's been, I mean, you guys know me. We go back to our days in Dallas when I was at the NBC station out there. And I can't believe it. Like I stumbled on this the other day when we were just kind of talking about things. Because in this business and in this industry, you just head down sports calendar, right? But when you come up for air and realize this will already be my 11th season at ESPN.
Wow.
I've been here 10 and a half years and fortunate enough to be in a great situation with the college football because it's what I love more than anything. It's been fun, man. It really is fun to just be in this situation where you get to talk this sport full time for a living. Like, I mean, you guys get it. In Dallas, I was there when Gary Patterson was taking that team to the Rose Bowl with Andy Dalton, but you were Cowboys, Mavs, Rangers, Stars. You were very much pro sports. So to be able to, everyone asks about ESPN, I say, well, Sports Center's the job, but I major in college football and golf is how I answer the question. It's just great.
You may have just answered the question that I was going to ask, which is you are, and I got to say, I've taken a lot of pride as like a bystander in watching you climb the ranks of ESPN because you did our shows so many times that it felt like a little piece. Sam Ponder, the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Like when you were the king and she was the queen of our radio show. And it's like, oh, she hosts NFL Countdown. It feels like in a weird way. Because Chad will tell you, we had her on the show. She was like a sideline reporter for Fox Directional or something like that.
Yeah.
And nobody knew who she was yet. And now she's big time and super and on the set with Rex Ryan all the time. I'm curious, now that you're Mr. College Football on the national level, if ESPN could give you an assignment, hey Matt, you've been killing it in college football. We're gonna let you do like some of the other guys and just go somewhere and host for a day, for a weekend, for whatever. Are you going golf? Are you picking like the Masters? What are we doing?
Well, so I've been fortunate enough too to be on our Masters coverage for the last 8 years, and I host our coverage of the PGA Championship every year. And so,
Humble brag.
yeah. So for me, it's just that's why it's just such a great situation because I'm literally living the thing that I love doing most. And I always tell people, and when you speak to college students and aspiring journalists that want to get into this and do this for a living. And I tell them all, and I mean this wholeheartedly. I've got friends for life from local television. And I wouldn't trade the local television journey that I did for anything in the world. I wouldn't do it because I have so many friends and connections in the media just from doing local television with guys that we had a relationship, and that doesn't change. Some of my best friends are still in Columbia, South Carolina, where I did TV for 3 years. Some of my best friends are still in Dallas that I still keep in touch with. And it was all part of the growth to get to the level. And that's why when you bring up Sam, we talk about all the time, coming from the same area in Arizona and really holding on to the relationships that we've built along the way. Because you know what it is about college sports, and this is why I'll pick it over the NFL 365 days a year. College sports are the epitome of a community. Okay. Because typically, unless you're in a rare situation, we talked about USC and UCLA in a big city, even Arizona State and the Phoenix metropolitan area. Most college towns are smaller towns that live and breathe that school in that particular area. And you know what that does is it brings everybody together. It's the one thing, sense of community and pride. And that's why I've always loved it. That's why I've always loved being a part of it. And doing it at ESPN at this level. I mean, when I call Thursday night college football, but there'll be news on that coming out later with who I'll be in the booth with this year. A little bit of a change this year, just a little tease. I won't give you more than that. But when we go to these schools, I mean, one of the best weekend Thursday night games we had was Coastal Carolina and Appalachian State, because that little burg in Coastal Carolina and Myrtle Beach in that area and how they love football in Appalachian State, and that to me, that's college ball. And I know there's millions of dollars and there's realignment and there's NIL and there's transfer portal. But when you really break it down to the simplest part of Saturday, that to me is what makes it great.
Ooh, that's good stuff. Now I can't wait for kickoff.
I don't know if you know this. Chad's team lost to Appalachian State last year. That happened.
You know what? There's no need to. Why again? The facts and the logic that's being brought. There's no need to bring facts.
Talking Appalachian State. That happened.
You know what?
It's video radio. You don't need facts, just opinions.
No, Matt. Here's why the tradition stuff matters to me too. I watched that coach get emotional talking about that win on my field.
Yep,
beating my team. And I felt it for him. Like I hated it. But I watched him and I thought, man, college football is awesome. I really did. I really did.
Like, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
When you get these guys, and look, you guys know this with Sark at Texas and Jimbo at A&M and Saban and Brian Kelly. We know there are superstars, Dabo Swinney, there are superstars coaching in this sport. But at the end of the day, when you really go back to their lineage and where they came from, they started at the essence of what is college football. And that's why I root for a guy like Sean Clark at Appalachian State, who played ball there. He was an offensive line, he's an all-conference player. What means more to him than Appalachian State football? None. Yeah. Nothing. And that's, to me, just at the genesis of the sport, it is that, and that's what makes it so special.
Yeah, I hated myself for smiling when he said they're partying in Boone, North Carolina tonight. And I was like, damn, stop smiling.
Right.
Okay, one more from me, Matt. Longhorns, Aggies. Give me your thoughts on, you just said Sark and Jimbo. Give me your thoughts on Sark and Jimbo. How do you think the teams are going to do this year?
Man, I'm going to start with Sark in Texas because, when we talk NFL draft, what's the first thing everybody says? Well, Bijan Robinson's gone. Okay. Well, last time I checked, Texas has always recruited at a very high level. And with what I've seen out of Quinn Ewers, that weight loss and him taking his physical build seriously, something clicked with him. And he understands that this is a year for him. I don't know if it was Arch coming in or the quarterback competition, what it was. But if he just hones in on the talent we saw to him at South Lake Carroll and he trim down, start studying the playbook a little bit more. I've gone on record of saying that we see Ohio State every single year bring the best wide receiver core to the country. Before that, it was Alabama, Ohio State, top notch. Texas has, in my opinion, a top 3 receiver room in the country. If they can stay healthy, if Quinn can develop into the talent that I know Sark thinks that he has, if the defense can build on last year, you're looking at a team I firmly believe that is perfectly set up to win the Big 12 and contend for a college football playoff. But the one thing they cannot do, the one thing Texas cannot do, is they can't buy into the hype that has yet to be proven, if that makes sense. Because I think all of us that watched the game against Alabama last year, it's easy for us to say if Quinn wouldn't have got hurt, they would have beaten Alabama. That very well may be. But programs that are ready for the ascent find a way to win those games. And if they can do that this year, if this team can find a way to believe that they can win games late based on talent, gentlemen, sky's the limit for Texas in their final year in the Big 12. And I think the best team top to bottom in the Big 12, even though Kansas State returns a lot of their players from last year. On the Texas A&M side, you're talking about a school that I think over the past, 3, 4, 5 years, they've been at the top 7 of recruiting every year, if not 1 and 2. I believe that bringing in Bobby Petrino could be the difference between Texas A&M always being a team of potential and being a team that you have to contend with. Now, I readily admit it's combustible, waiting to happen. But what better offensive mind could you bring in that's got skins in this league and say, you know what? You go coach ball. Jimbo, concentrate on being a head coach and get everything you can out of these 5-star kids we've been hearing so much about. Because I brought up Gary Patterson earlier. I'll take schools that find a way. We were talking about Mark D'Antonio a couple of days ago. What was he known for? Taking 2 and 3 stars and developing them. Okay, Jimbo's got 5 stars coming out of his ears. Well, have they been developed properly? You could argue probably not yet. They've had a couple of guys that have gone on to the league, but they've got enough guys coming back with pedigree that if they just find a way to find a system that works and sinks in, you can't find a tougher division in any sport than the SEC West if Texas A&M finally lives up to what we believe they can be. And I'll tell you this, if that marriage works, if Bobby and Jimbo work, hell, who knows what could happen if those two get together.
Matt, I'll leave you with this. We'll leave you with this 20-second question. Do you have and I won't hold you to this. You can change it at a later date.
Great.
Your top 4 for the playoffs this year at this moment look like what?
As of right now, yes. Georgia's a lock. Georgia's an absolute lock because of their schedule. They're getting in. Even if they lost in the SEC championship to the team out in a Western division and the SEC West, they're getting in. I really like LSU. I think they've got enough coming back, and they did that under year 1 with Brian Kelly. What do you think year 2 is going to look like? I firmly believe that a Pac-12 team in the final year of its existence is going to get into the college football playoff.
Ooh.
If, it's a big if, because it tends to be an if with Lincoln Riley. If the defense, if they show some semblance of a defense and punch Utah back in the face, because Utah smack you every time. I'll put USC in the college football playoff. This is the one that I have the right to put an asterisk on. And I think Michigan is getting back in. I think Michigan's getting in for a 3rd year in a row. I think Florida State is going to be hunting. I think Clemson's going to be hunting. I think Ohio State's going to be hunting. But if I'm told right here, right now, 2 teams from the SEC, Michigan and USC.
Simple as that. I like it.
There it is.
Matt, can't say it enough, man. It's been too long. Can we get you, once the season starts and you're doing like 16-hour Saturdays and stuff like that, is there a best time for me to approach you to say, hey, it's Bama Texas week. Can we get you at some point this week? Is it okay to do that? Or are you slammed?
I like, this is like when you lost your high school lover over the years and you finally found a way to reunite with. That's what this is. It's like we ran into each other at a grocery store. And we're like, how have you been? What's going on in life? Yeah, you guys know how to find me. I don't hit the road So my Sports Center schedule is Monday, Tuesdays during the fall. We're moving time slots because we got another show coming in before us now. But Mondays and Tuesdays before I travel, if you guys want to get on here and talk Texas and Texas A&M and some good SEC Big 12, you guys know where to find me. I'll do anything for you.
Ooh, how about that? How about that?
Matt
That's
Barrie,
awesome stuff.
ESPN. Matt, thank you so much. Chad, any final words?
Hey, man, it's just I'm so glad to be able to see you as well as talk to you. Best of luck with everything. Enjoy getting that college football season started, man, and just so happy for you. Every time I see you, every time I hear you, whatever you're doing, I always know you're having a great time. You're one of my favorites. You're a lot of folks' favorites. Thank you so much for the time again.
It means a lot, guys. And also, congratulations on getting the show back. This is the most dominant duo people didn't know they needed until they had it again.
There you go. Thank you,
There
brother.
it is. Matt Barrie, ESPN, signing off.